some of you may remember me starting 5 or 6 years ago sharing about sinkholes. And I began telling people that I had uncovered a really nefarious plan to basically set off the ring of fire and cause the air quality to go really bad and cause massive earthquakes to happen. I'm still awaiting an earthquake to happen here in the States, and you know, God's taught me a lot through that patience that I've had to adapt because I didn't have any patience, but I did have to adapt it. And he's taught me a lot through it. But I stopped sharing for a while because they kept taking my videos down. They kept censoring me, and they just kept making it so that I was wasting time. That's all I was doing. I was just wasting a lot of time. And I'm really big on not wasting time. In fact, I've always been the type of person that when people waste time around me, I get a little agitated. Where I'm like, come on, man, it doesn't take that long to do that, you know? But here we are. Ominous warning to humanity as nearly 700 sinkholes consume Turkey, mirroring biblical prophecy. The book of Numbers, chapter 6, describes the earth opening up and swallowing people as divine punishment for rebellion, a connection that some are drawing after the massive collapses in the Konya Plain, a key wheat-growing region. Now, if anyone remembers about, maybe about 4 years ago, because it's around 2021, a little over, maybe going into 5, where I said, God told me to tell you to repent because the ground is going to open up and swallow some of you. I ain't heard nobody else say it. And then after, I heard some people come out and say the same thing, that the ground would open her mouth. But here we are. Scientists point to far more earthly causes. Turkey's Disaster and Emergency Management Authority has reported 648 massive sinkholes in the Konya Plain, primarily the result of severe drought and excessive groundwater pumping. Researchers at Konya Technical University have discovered more than 20 new sinkholes in the past year alone, adding to the nearly 1,900 sites already mapped by 2021, where the ground was slowly sinking or starting to cave in. Before 2000, only a handful of sinkholes appeared each decade, but climate change and prolonged drought are blamed for the dramatic increase over the past 25 years. Today, dozens of enormous collapses occur annually, some more than 100 feet wide. Falling groundwater tables are driving the problem, causing drier wells, stressed ecosystems, dwindling crops, and land subsidence. Farmers pumping more water to save sugar beet and corn crops are further exacerbating the situation. Scientists warn that similar risks could emerge in parts of the U.S., Asia, the Middle East, the Mediterranean, and Australia, where declining groundwater levels threaten communities and ecosystems. Turkey Today reported that some farmers have already lost crops or had abandoned fields deemed too dangerous. According to NASA's Earth Observatory, Turkey's water reservoirs reached their lowest levels in 15 years in 2021. The groundwater table in parts of Konya has dramatically dropped over the past few decades, according to Turkish geological studies. The same issues are plaguing the U.S., with major declines seen in the Great Plains, Central Valley, and Southeast. Parts of Texas, Florida, New Mexico, and Arizona could be affected by major sinkholes if drought conditions worsen and groundwater pumping is not carefully regulated. The U.S. Drought Monitor noted that pockets of Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Utah, Colorado, and Wyoming have also reached this severe level of drought. Massive sinkholes form in drought-ridden areas when farmers and cities pump massive amounts of groundwater from limestone rock layers to survive the dry years, emptying the underground caves that were once filled with water. When that water support vanishes, the cave roofs collapse, creating huge holes that swallow farmland and roads overnight, just like in Turkey and parts of Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico. In the U.S., scientists have warned of an unprecedented 21st century drought risk in the Southwest and Central Plains. Over the last decade, multiple studies have forecasted severe and persistent drought conditions through the year 2100. Currently, the nation's drought monitor system found that the worst conditions in 2025 were found along the U.S.-Mexico border in western Texas, measuring at D4, the most severe drought rating. Several of the regions in northern Florida and southern Georgia, New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, and Utah were all graded in December of 2025 as being in severe drought D2 or extreme drought D3. You can see the U.S. Drought Monitor there. This is a December 9th, 2025 look at it. U.S. officials have revealed that several areas of the Southwest are at risk of similar sinkholes as severe drought conditions worsen in the coming century. In Upton County, Texas, a massive sinkhole formed around an abandoned 1950s oil well near McCamey, measuring about 200 feet wide and 40 feet deep in March. In southeastern Arizona's Cochise County, land subsidence, ground sinking from groundwater pumping has led to multiple fissures and sinkholes this year. These sinkholes have varied from 10 to 30 feet across, with local areas reportedly sinking by more than 6 inches per year across hundreds of acres, creating pockets of unstable ground in farming areas. In southern New Mexico, a 30-foot deep sinkhole opened in May 2024 near homes and Las Cruces, swallowing 2 cars and forcing nearby homes to evacuate. Officials cited unstable soil from recent droughts as the key factor, though no statewide pumping cutbacks were enacted in response. In Texas, over 100 public water systems have imposed restrictions on groundwater pumping this year, as new drought rules have limited groundwater pumping for agriculture and in cities across central Texas. Yeah, I stumbled across a book that had coded plans into it. It said it was a cryptic vault. It sure was. And I took it and I applied some cryptographical processes to it, flipped all the words around, broke them down in acronyms, and created an entire database over it. I was able to call certain cryptocurrencies, certain stocks, certain companies doing well, some doing poorly. I was able to call certain events before they happen. I have witnesses to this. And here we are. I called this too. So we are sitting on the edge of judgment. You know, I thought this would have happened by now, but God has shown me how merciful and how good he is. And he's definitely way merciful and way better than I have ever been. And I couldn't even, for the longest time, I couldn't even fathom his mercy and his grace. And I just think it's amazing. But these are warnings. These are stark warnings. Like, he is still warning the people and saying, hey, look, my children, I love you. You know, repent, turn back to me. Some people are still living in the same sinful life that they were living 5 to 10 years ago. It is time to turn away from that stuff. And if you don't, I mean, when the ground opens up and swallows you, or, you know, an earthquake does something, and then you're harmed, like, that's no one's fault but your own, because you have the choice now. So, anyways, here it is. I said we'd see things like this occurring, and we've been seeing it. I thought that it would have been a lot more in a lot shorter time, and it's been a long period of time. And man, that just goes to show how good God is, because I've been seeing the birth pangs of Christ's new kingdom for quite a while. You know, 6 years I've been looking at these earthquakes, and I've been seeing them just get more and more. But I recently saw some reports come out, and I'm like, oh, we must be there. We must be sitting on the cusp of that reality here in the States. And so with these things happening, of course, I knew that they were going to be coming out and warning, and here they are. They're warning. So, you know, you don't have to heed my warning, because I'm a nobody, and it is what it is. But I am somebody to Christ. And, you know, 5, 6 years ago, y'all didn't want to believe me. Y'all wanted to laugh at me. Y'all wanted to go, oh, my gosh. Well, because I was telling y'all, they're opening the bottomless pit. Y'all think that's funny? I don't. Just get into your word. A lot of people say, oh, the word was written by man. No, it wasn't. You guys are taking power away from God, and you're giving it to men. And you're saying these groups of men are more powerful than God. No, nobody created Jesus. Y'all, every knee is going to bow. And some of y'all are going to eat your words. You're out here telling people that you know this and you know that. You don't know anything. You believe all these books and all of these different reports, but you don't believe the one book that says it's authored by the Most High God. He said, my thoughts are not your thoughts. My ways are not your ways. And so the words that he put in his Bible, the basic instructions before leaving earth, were put there to give us instruction for us to be guided and for us to see his mercy. And here you guys have just spent all these years. I've heard so many of you out here talking about, I don't need that book because it was written by man. No, it wasn't. Your ignorance is showing, okay? But hey, you know, who am I? Here it is. I've warned you guys numbers of times, and there it is right there. Everything I said, it's right there in this report. And so what can you say about that? You know, I know people have heard me say this. I know people. I have spent time after time. I was on YouTube sharing videos as I was searching through these weird directions and trying to put it all together and determine what the heck was going on and what that was going to look like. And I've come out and said we're going to see a lot of sinkholes. We're going to see, you know, more earthquakes. And of course, there was always war and rumors of war, but that this here was going to be astronomical. And here you have it. They are now coming out and warning. So what are we on the cusp of? Does that mean that we are going to see this huge geological shift? They've been talking about the plates shifting. They have been showing, you know, doing their little light shows in the skies. And, you know, so it's a perfect setup to pretend like the aliens have come and invaded us, you know. And so many people is like, oh, the Anunnaki is going to come, blah, blah, blah. Like, you believe all of those things, but you don't believe God's written word. I feel so sorry for you guys. Really, I do. Because there's a man out here who has proven the perfection of biblical text, and y'all just, like, overlook it like it's nothing.